November 5, Uniform Oscar Victor. You've had several people try to respond to you, over.
Roger. We're in Louisville. I didn't copy anybody. I'm on a magnetic loop antenna. Could be the directionality of the antenna might be precluding the reception of those signals. But anyway, where are you located, sir, and what's your name?
I'm located in Rocky Face, Georgia, Jim. My name here is Jack Juliet Alpha Charlie Kilo. And I was just sitting here, just got through a little while ago talking to John Parks over there on this frequency, and I was still sitting here when you started checking in. I was sitting here looking outside, sunshine, had to go outside tomorrow. To go out of town tomorrow.
Roger. What's the name there again, please?
Roger. What's the name there again, please?
Well, I tell you, we have some volatile signal situations. You were giving me, just a minute ago, you were giving me about a 15 over, and then you slipped into my noise level, Roger.
15 over, and then you slipped into my noise level, Roger.
Yeah, I'm running, just as usually we're doing a QSO-VLOG network on Friday afternoons on this frequency. And just checking out some stuff. We were on 4 internet SDR receivers, in addition to 2 large 10-foot magnetic loop antennas. Our SDR receivers are for Rochester, Atlanta, Alexandria, Virginia, and Milford, PA, Roger.
Alexandria, Virginia, and Milford, PA, Roger.
Yeah, I believe I've talked to you before. Aren't you the gentleman that helps people set their audio levels, things like that?
Roger that. We do that. And we also record, and we're recording right now. This is kind of a busman's holiday, so to speak. We're just checking out some circuits that we will be using come Friday, and we want to be sure that they're going to work. Roger.
Sure that they're going to work. Roger.
I worked in aviation for 40 years on aviation electronics. I often try to make my people understand that they need to go out there and test it out. We got there to pick up the airplane.
Roger, yeah. It's funny how, well, even after you test things out, there is possibilities that push come to shove the day of the whatever you're going to use, it's not going to work, you know. I'm sure that's some kind of a technical law, you know.
Yeah, it's called Murphy's Law. All things that are left to themselves will gradually go from bad to worse.
Yes, sir. And I've been on the bottom end of that, you know. But you know, it does prove prudent to at least do all you can ahead of the fact to try to ensure that it's going to work, you know. And after that, it's in the hands of the noise gods.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. Had an incident once. We sent a gentleman's altimeter out to the shop. One of we farmed out those things to another shop, and we got it back and put it in the airplane and leak check and everything passed, and it came back in, and he came out there about 4 hours later after the airplane been sitting in the sun and said his altimeter was off by 250 feet. We went out there and checked it out and looked at it, and sure enough, we brought it in to check it on our bench. And while we were sitting there, we saw it change, and we called the vendor and said, "What did you do?" He said, "Well, we tweaked on the temperature compensation bar." And we said, "Well, you messed it up." And so we had to get him a whole new altimeter.
Roger. Well, you know those altimeters, they're only important twice in a flight, you know. I mean, they're not like you're going to hang on them all the time. They're only important if you're landing or taking off, pretty much. I mean, if you have a 250-foot error in landing, you got a problem.
Yes, luckily they were smaller aircraft, so most of what he was going to be doing was going to be visual. But I've worked on everything from Piper Cub to a 727, so I've worked on a little bit of everything.
Roger. We watched this syndicated TV series called Buffalo Airways. I don't know, have you ever caught that before?
No, sir, I can't say as I have.
Well, Buffalo Airways is way up there in Alaska, and I forget, Yellowknife and around through that. But they were running the last of the C-47s and those older planes, you know, 2-engine planes, and boy, they would be trying to fly those in I think minus 40 was about as low as they could go, unless the plane was in the hangar. If the plane was outside, minus 40, I don't think they could start the engines, Roger.
Yes, sir. I've seen videos of things like that where they sit outside and they have to actually put heaters blowing through the engine cowling to get the engines warm enough that the oil will move. You know, those old radios like that, you've got to pull them through frequently. They just sit up for a period of time before you start them to make sure there's no oil down in the very bottom cylinder.
Roger. Yeah, they had about a couple of heaters there. They have a Willie Nelson or Herman Nelson or something Nelson. That thing is like a heater blower, and they put a blanket over the engine and put that Willie Nelson on it and just heat it up to some kind of tolerable temperature, like 0 degrees or something.
Yes, that's what it takes. You got to get that oil, because once it gets cold, it gets thick, and the starter can only do so much. Especially when you realize just how big the cylinders are in those planes. They're pretty good sized cylinders. Typically, some of them are 5 inches in diameter and got a 3 or 4 inch stroke, and they generate a lot of compression doing that. So you got to be able to get things going when you do it.
Roger. The thing I found interesting was that I don't know how many cylinders they got in those engines, but there's a bunch of them, you know, maybe 15 or looks like 15 or 20 cylinders, and each one of those cylinders is a separate thing. They can take that cylinder off and put a new cylinder on and be ready to go instead of having to take the old engine out.
Yes, sir. I've helped change jugs before. We call them jugs. Where it's the cylinder and all like that comes together. You can reach in there and undo the crank, the rods and the crankshaft and take it out. And I've helped change out jugs before and things like that. So yeah, I've been around it. But I'll tell you this much, most radio engines are going to be, well, all radio engines have an odd number of engines on cylinders on each row. Now, some of them may have, they got some out there as many as 4 rows, but they're always an odd number because of the physics that makes them work, and so they have to run on an odd number, and that's how they all are. But if you got a dual roll 5-cylinder, you'll have 2 cylinders, but you treat each row as a separate engine.
Roger that. Now, you were on the electronic side rather than the mechanical side, though, mostly, Roger?
Yes, sir. I was on the electronic side mostly, but my duties, I was in the Navy. In the Navy, there was no such thing as a single job. You had to perform other jobs. So it was quite frequently that I was called upon to do other things. I've helped separate gas turbine engines and things like that, primarily Trax DC6s, and I've got some experience with Lycon engines and things like that. About the only thing I've never really done on an aircraft is time magnetos on a reciprocating engine.
Roger. Well, you know, like I say, these planes were the old, I think World War. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm not really sure, but they were. I think you know, like DC-4s, and they were the modern plane they had was an Electra. I forget what year, but that was an older plane too. But it was a oh gosh, it used jet fuel. It wasn't a jet. I think it was a turboprop. I think it was. Not a jet, but just before a jet, you know.
The Lockheed Electra L1088 was built in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s. It is the host airplane for the Navy's P3 Orions. That was actually the P3 Orions were built from their airframe design, and that's what I worked on. For the Navy, I worked on P3 Orion for the Navy, and that's the very first aircraft. That's the turboprop. Those are Allison turboprop engines. They're actually jet engines to drive propellers.
Roger, Roger. Yeah, they were. I think they had two of those, and they got a third one from over in England. There was a company that was flying those pretty much, and they had weeded those out and replaced those with newer planes. And so this plane that they had was just the last Electra in their fleet that they would be getting rid of. And so Buffalo Airways went over there and got that one to add to their fleet. And I forget how old they are, but they were, you know, that Electra was quite an old plane. You know, this series was shot, I think, about 7 years ago or so, and it was an old plane then, you know.
Yes, sir, it was old. Most of them, I don't think there's any of them left to fly. And the Navy has gotten rid of most of the and gone to the new, what they call the T8, which is built on the Boeing 737 airframe. So there's a lot of history in that plane. But that Electra was a solid, rough, hard. It was a tough airplane. It was a good airplane and a tough airplane. And having worked on the P3s and knowing what we went through, we had an incident with one of our P3s that was Blue and we completely fired out two of the four engines and partially fired one of the engines, and the number one engine was the only one that was still operating in parameters. And they were having to stand on one rudder pedal to keep the plane stationary. The two engines on the right side were completely dead.
Oh, roger that, roger that. Yeah, it was. I think it was a really trustworthy aircraft. But you know, those older ones, the DC-4s or whatever those older ones were, two-engine planes. You know, every time they took it up, they were flying food and stuff up to some of those real small towns up in Alaska, and you know, they would be landing on ice runways. You know, pretty much snow-covered runways. Roger.
Yes, sir. Those are the DC-3s are twin engines. They're specifically the twin engines. DC-4s came along later. They were a four-engine, what we call Trax aircraft. They came along right after them. Those DC-3s are rugged workhorses. If you read it as a book out there written by Ernest Kahn, called Fate is the Hunter, and he talks about flying DC-3s in that book.
Roger that. Yeah, I guess these were the older ones. Did you say the DC-3s were the older ones?
The DC-3s were the older ones?
Yes, sir, they're the older ones. They're the ones that they drag their tail. They have their tail draggers.
Roger. So yeah, they land kind of with their nose up. Roger.
Yeah, with their nose up. Roger.
Yes, sir. Yes, they have their nose up. Matter of fact, it's about 5 or 6 degrees rectangle when you walk in the back of the airplane to the front of it.
I'm sorry, I missed that last.
I said there's about a 5 or 6 degrees when you walk in the back and uphill.
Roger. Well, it was something else. You know, they there was always have this black streak across the wing, right where the engine was. I guess you know, they always burnt a lot of oil, and that oil smoke or whatever would go across the wing and just put a black soot mark straight across the wing. Roger.
Yes, they burn oil and fuel and they would do that. They'd mark them up. And that's one of the toughest jobs on an airplane, keeping that off. I'll tell you what, though, having worked on pressurized aircraft, when you work on those, you can see what pressurized aircraft, when you work on it. I don't know if you're a cigarette smoker or not, but having cleaned a few outflow valves, which is what controls the pressurization in an aircraft, I'm glad I wasn't a smoker.
Hey, roger that. Now, so you maintained the radio systems mostly in those planes?
If it
was electronic, I worked on it, on most of them. I worked on radios, radar, autopilot, everything. On radar for them, I was a radar combat. They used me because I worked in civilian aviation as well. They kind of, you know, I had all the wiring problems.
Roger that. Well, conditions seem to be changing a little bit. What's the name there again, please?
The name is Jack. We got somebody that moved in above us that's off a little bit.
Roger. What's my signal strength to you, sir?
You better follow that sign the whole time until the supposed to make sure it's too close to my front end, over.
Roger. Now I'm copying you sometimes 5 dB above my noise level, sometimes less, so it's kind of give and take there. Are you running like 100 watts or what, sir?
No, sir, I'm sitting here peaking at 500 right now. I'm peaking at 500.
Roger that. Well, should be copying you a little bit better, but you know, Mother Nature, you never can tell what she's up to, and sometimes you just can't get there from here, Roger.
My biggest problem is I'm running on a vertical, and you're going to be first hot, so it's going to attenuate a little bit for that, and that's part of it. If I was on the wire, it would probably make a difference.
Roger. What's your location again?
Rocky Face, Georgia. I'm 10 miles south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the state of Georgia. Over.
Roger that. I just went to the Atlanta SDR, and I've got a little bit better copy on you, Roger.
I've used that SDR time or two listening to other stations. I do the Navy Amateur Radio Club that some mornings, and I'll go and look at some of those web SDRs to see how things are. I can't hear others.
Roger, Roger. Well, I run 4 of them. I have 4 Amazon Fire tablets right in front of me there, and so I've got those tuned to those 4 internet SDR receivers, and kind of helped me along the way, try to get a little bit closer to our 100-watt friends. By today's standards, 40 on, the 40-meter band, 100 watts doesn't go too far, and if it does, it usually gets there at about maybe 2 dB above somebody's noise level, unless you have really exceptional conditions, Roger.
Really exceptional conditions, Roger.
So yes, sir, I was surprised just a few minutes on 65 watts. I was really surprised with the distance for that. On 40, I always run the amp, and 40 I always run the amp, because typically I have to do with pilot and things like that.
Roger that. Roger that. Give me your name one more time. I'm getting a little bit better copy on you now.
I'm getting a little bit better copy on you now.
My name is Juliet Alpha Charlie Kilo. Juliet Alpha Charlie Kilo. Just remember, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Roger, Jack, I got that. And give me your call sign one more time, slowly, phonetically.
And one more time, slowly, phonetically.
November 5, Uniform Oscar Victor. November 5, Uniform Oscar Victor. Or as a lady, when I first got my call, she told me I was November 5, ugly old farmer.
Roger, Jack. All right. Well, we have been recording this QSO, and we'll be posting it up on YouTube. And I've been working along in the shack as we've been talking. So it's, usually I'm kind of in one place, but like I say, we were working on some lighting situations that we had to resolve before tomorrow. We do our QSO-VLOG show tomorrow afternoon between 3:30 and 5, and we had made some lighting changes. And we're trying to read script now, and we need a little bit better lighting to read script than what we had. So, but we didn't want to get too much lighting. Try to preserve some of the the lighting of our Radio Shack studio, Roger.
Radio Shack studio, Roger.
Yes, sir. I've sent you the vlog before and seen it. I think you did a very good job of it before, and I wish you the best on all that. I think it's a good service you provide for people. I like to think I learned enough about mine. It took me a few days to get this radio set up once I put it up and got it going. I prefer boom lights and switch switches to anything that's out there. I'm running a HRC right now with boom light, and that's what I use on this, and I also have one for my Kenwood, because I like to have my hands free so I can take notes while I'm on the net and things like that. I'm looking at the time, and I've got to go in and eat my lunch and take my meds, so I'm going to say 7:30 to you, Jim. It's been a pleasure, and I'll check the YouTube page later and take a look and see how I sound. I appreciate your time and your patience. It sounded good, sir. I wish you the best luck on getting everything real proper to vlog. But I'm going to take you loose for now. I'm going here and take my meds. Have a good one, sir. Thanks for the conversation. November 5, Uniform Oscar Victor.
Well, Jack, you're getting out of there just in time, man. The mentally ill have taken hold on the frequency, and I think they're clearing their throat or something. It's just whatever, it's just amazing that they lack the ability to communicate in a humanoidal form, so they're reduced to making odd noises. But anyway, Jack 3, sir, and it will take us, just give us a couple of days to load this up to YouTube. So we'll do that, and so in a couple of days, if you do that call letter search, Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. We're running about 830 or 40 recorded QSOs now, but this one will be on the front page. It'll be called My Pop-Up Air Check, and it will have your call sign there, and like I said, it should be on page 1, maybe page 2, Roger.
Wish you the best of luck, and take care. 73, hope to catch you later on down the log. N5UOV.
Roger, roger, sir. 3's that away. Have a good day. This is KC9VKV testing.
KC9VKV, KI4IRS, Mobile, Memphis, Tennessee.
I got KI4. What's the rest, please?
Internal Revenue Service. Name is Jeff. 18-wheel Mobile, Memphis, Tennessee.
Roger, sir. Well, you're making the trip there real good. I'm copying you on my local 10-foot magnetic loop antennas, 2 of them in the co-phase mode. Roger.
Roger, roger. You got a good signal in the Memphis this morning. I just kind of standing up and down the band and heard you in there, and heard you mention something about a radio show or something going on over there. I was trying to figure out how... because I try to make some YouTube videos sometime, but my lighting in my shack is real low. I just wondering if you can give me some ideas on what type of lighting to get to put in those videos.
Well, I tell you, modern. I'm using a real El Cheapo camera. I did not want a great deal of resolution. I think that's where a lot of people screw up. And they get these 20 megapixel cameras, and so every skin pore that you have in your face shows up enhanced, So I think I'm using about maybe a 4 megapixel camera on the what do you call that? The plug-in right into the computer. Roger, roger.
Okay. What do you do for your lighting? Your lighting in there to light your shack up or your face there, over?
Well, consider two layers of lighting. Whatever you're going to use for the backdrop, I would light that separately from what you're going to be lit as a person in the scene. So what you want is to light yourself. Usually, those things they put over automobile windshields to keep the snow off the glass? Well, they have those like in silver. And what you do is take a little LED light and put it in front of it, and bounce the light off that silver back onto yourself, so you have very diffused lighting, Roger.
That's what I was looking for. I appreciate that information there, because it's sometimes, in a just a regular room or whatever, proper lighting, unless you just, got sunlight coming in on you and stuff like that. Try to get some good lighting without having shadows, and it's sometimes a little bit tough there, right?
Oh, Roger, Roger. Yeah, and the thing is, you have all the time in the world to play with your lighting until you get it right, and when it looks right, you can compare your video to other people's videos on YouTube, and get some kind of idea about, where you stand lighting-wise and what you want to do. And like I say, you light your set in segments. One light does not fit all. If you get just one front light to light yourself in the backdrop, either you're going to be burnt out, and the backdrop's going to be weak, or something like that. So if you just concentrate on lighting each, maybe three layers of lighting or 2 layers of lighting, at least, Roger.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that information there. Okay, I won't hold you. Wanted to jump in and what's doing over that area. Hope all is well with you, and we don't catch any more. Have a good day that's left of it, and prosperous year, the end of the year, and the new year coming up, if we don't catch any more. Call again is Kilo India 4, India Radio 0, and the name is Jim. Is that right?
Okay, Jim, and the call sign is Kilo India 4, India Romeo Sierra?
Yes, sir. Name is Jim. Juliet Echo Fox Fox.
Roger, Jeff, I've got that. And so in a couple of days, if you go to YouTube, do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. That will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. And you'll be looking for a QSO with your call sign in the title, Roger.
Okay, sir. I sure appreciate you there. I'll be looking for that in a couple of days. Anyway, thank you for the information, and take care on that end. It sounded good. You're running, but you got a good signal into Memphis there, Roger.
Roger, Jeff. 3's that way, sir. Have a great afternoon and a beautiful weekend coming up. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, Jim, KC9VKV, and the QSO-VLOG page. We're actually now taking a busman's holiday. This is not the official Friday afternoon thing, but we are checking out some lighting, matter of fact, and we're adding a little bit more lighting so we can read things, unlike where we have been. And so we have to have a little more light, but we're going to try to do that very judiciously so we don't spread that light all over. That's the thing, to be able to, if you do a video piece, you want your lighting to be exactly perfect in all areas, and it's not, you're not going to get that usually by one light. You take maybe your background and light the background, and then light if you're in the foreground, and you light yourself separately. And so you can, have a good, well-defined picture as opposed to hot spots and stuff. And diffusers are pretty important. This is KC9VKV. Also testing out our SDR receivers. We're running 4 SDR receivers covering Rochester and Milford, PA, Atlanta, Georgia, and actually we have Alexandria. I think that's Arlington. It should be that should be Arlington, so we have to change the script there. But anyway, this is KC9VKV listening. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Probably be on the air for another maybe 10 minutes or so. If there's anybody, we are recording, so if there's anybody out there that would be interested in hearing what their audio sounds like, give us a shout. This is KC9VKV. This is KC9VKV. Heard somebody back out there. Try it again, please, sir.
Good morning. 2Q. The name is Roger, and I'm located in Warrensburg, northeastern New York State. Over.
Yes, sir. I just picked you up pretty good on the Milford PA SDR. Come back with your call sign one more time, please, sir.
PA SDR. Come back with your call sign one more time, please, sir.
Okay, it's KW2Q, Kilowatt Whiskey, number 2, Quebec.
Roger, Roger. And what's the name, please?
Roger, Roger. And what's the name, please?
And the name is Roger.
Roger. And you were up in New York. Was that a Roger?
Roger. And you were up in New York. Was that a Roger?
Yes, I'm up in northeastern New York State, 100 miles north of Albany, in the town of Warrensburg.
Roger, Roger. And what radio are you running today, sir?
Roger, Roger. And what radio are you running today, sir?
And today we're running the ICOM 7610, over.
Oh, my favorite radio. One of my favorites. 7300 is good for the bucks. 7610 is just outstanding. And can you tell me about your antenna for about 15 seconds, sir?
Can you tell me about your antenna for about 15 seconds, sir?
All right. My antenna is an off-center fed dipole out in the pine trees out in the backyard. The microphone is a PR10, Heil PR10, on a boom, and the microphone is plugged into a very small box, which has a very clean, adjustable preamp and a little effect generator to give the audio some depth if you got a good signal. And that is plugged into the mic input on the 7610, and we're running the mic gain on the radio at a 30, over.
Roger, Roger. Now, if you would be interested, I could probably give you another 15 to 20% average peak modulation if you would be interested in that, and still sound just beautiful.
If you would be interested in that, and still sound just beautiful.
Sure. Go ahead. I'd be interested.
All right. You have a button on your radio left-hand side front panel called Quick.
Your left-hand side front panel called Quick.
Yes, I know that.
All right. So if you push Quick, you will derive at a screen that calls for Drive. Roger.
You will derive at a screen that calls for Drive. Roger.
Drive gain?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Accessed by the quick button to drive.
Accessed by the quick button to drive.
Right. Drive gain, which brings up a box on the right-hand side of the screen for adjusting drive gain. Which, by the way, I have adjusted the drive gain.
Okay, nominally you're at 50%. Where are you now, sir?
Okay, nominally you're at 50%. Where are you now, sir?
Okay, I'm at about 48% right now, 48.
Roger, you're going the wrong way. You should bring that drive up to about 65. You will notice an immediate peak modulation, average peak modulation increase, and still sound very, very beautiful.
Increase and still sound very, very beautiful.
And I agree with you by going up to 65, but you're defeating the purpose of the drive gain. You're actually removing the drive gain. The drive gain control is there to improve your signal, not your audio. But I do understand that if you remove the drive gain, you're releasing more of your audio. I understand that. Over.
Roger. Well, take this into consideration. I have experimented a great deal with that drive control, and I have had the occasion to have folks, as an experiment, move that drive control up to 100%, just as a test as to what it's going to do. And what happens is, as you advance that drive control, you are decreasing your dynamic range. Now, if you start, say audio chain that has a 10 dB dynamic range, that's equivalent to no processing. It's just like if I were to put a VU meter on a PA system and you're talking into the PA system, there's no processing, you have a 10 dB dynamic range. At that 10 dB dynamic range, your average percent of peak modulation is 30%. Now, what we do is want to close that dynamic range to normally 3 dB. 3 dB is most excellent dynamic range for the transmission of audio. When you achieve 3 dB of dynamic range in your audio, your average percent of peak modulation will be somewhere between 80 and 85%. And that's where I usually go for when I set up a radio. We encourage the use of the compressor engaged at about a 3 as the beginning, then move to the ALC and adjust the ALC to mid-scale to 2/3. And that being done, the end product usually is 3 dB dynamic range and average percent of peak modulation between 80 and 85%. But just as for kicks test, on the 7610, we were experimenting with drive, and we took drive full up. And you'd be interested to know that the dynamic range with that drive full up is about half a dB. Now, that's just unbelievable amount of, compression. Not actually compression, it's actually a limiting, because it's a very fast attack and release thing. And not much too much for the average person, but just out of curiosity, we did that. And as I'm looking at your signal and everybody's signal on a VU meter, and when that was moved to a full advance, my VU meter was moving between 0 level for calibrate to a minus half a dB. So you became running a half a dB of dynamic range with that drive all the way up. And my VU meter, instead of bouncing around, looked more like a plate voltmeter, Roger?
Instead of bouncing around, looked more like a plate voltmeter, Roger?
Okay, very good. Well, I have run it up to 65, and now I have to actually go up and I have to reduce my mic gain down because I'm way overmodulated. So let me make a couple of changes here. Now the drive gain is 65. Over.
Yes, Roger. You want to pull your ALC, engage your ALC meter, and with the mic gain in hand, pull your ALC level down or wherever to where your ALC meter is running mid-scale to 2/3. The actual perfect spot is halfway between mid-scale and 2/3. Roger, Roger.
Halfway between mid-scale and 2/3. Roger, Roger.
All right, I've made some adjustments here. I'm still going to have to come down on the mic gain a little bit here. Hold on. I've reduced the compression. I had the compression at 4, and I have reduced the compression to 3. And now I have reduced my mic gain. I have the really low, and now I have the ALC in the range that you're talking about. Do you see the improvement that I should have now?
Yes, sir. The beautiful thing about the 7610 and the 7300 is the limiter. The limiter in the 7300 and the 7610 are just like stonewall limiters. They have set a spot point in the audio that is their 100%. That is where they're going to keep it. And there's very little blow-by on the 7300s and 7610s. I mean, it's a very precise stonewall limiter. So it's and it's just beautiful to see it work on a VU meter. Our set level is 0, and the return is on each word is just boom, right to 0. No, hardly any blow-by at all.
Boom, right to 0. No, hardly any blow-by at all.
Okay, very good. Well, like I said, I have reduced my compression level. I have the drive gain is at 65, and I have adjusted the mic gain, and the ALC is in the area that you're talking about, around 2/3. And I'm curious to see what improvement you are seeing in my signal, KW2Q.
Your average percent of peak modulation is about 15 dB hotter than what it was. Like I say, it's getting fatter. Your dynamic range is probably about 2.5 dB wide now. Before you were about maybe 3.5 to 3. So you have a better average peak modulation and more consistency. The thing is, as you're bringing more signal to that limiter, it's stonewalling the limiter, and you're pushing it up just a little bit. So that's how you crunch the dynamic range from 3.5 to 2.5 dB, Roger.
The dynamic range from 3.5 to 2.5 dB, Roger.
All right, very good. So this setting did make the improvement that you talked about. Very, very good. Now, where can I go listen to this where you are recording it?
Okay, we have, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. And on that page, you'll be looking for a entity with your call sign in it. Kilo W2, Q, KW2Q. Roger, Roger?
Well, I'm Q. KW2Q. Roger, Roger.
Okay, I wrote that down to go to YouTube and your call sign. When do you think you will be posting this?
It'll probably be in the next couple of days. We usually, try to do it within 48 hours of when we do it. Sometimes, we get busy, and it is like 2 days, but a lot of times it's a lot sooner than that. So it just depends on, on what's going on. Now, I want to tell you about, that drive will try to keep your volume up to snuff. So it's very important for you to stay on axis to your microphone, because if you turn your head and you lose your syllabic range, it's going to try to keep the level up, so it'll bring your level up without the S range definition, and it will sound bassy. So, so you want to stay on axis to your microphone. That's the main thing, Roger.
So you want to stay on axis to your microphone. That's the main thing, Roger.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I'm using the Heil TR10 on a boom, and I'm talking about, I have the windscreen on the front, and I'm talking about an inch behind the windscreen, and by doing the dynamic element is picking up the low frequency response, which I wanted to do. So I think we're in good shape in that.
Roger. Roger. You have your audio EQ curve is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing on that. That microphone, you have your audio EQ set perfectly for that microphone. So all systems go, break out the Gorilla Tape, taper down, Roger.
All systems go, break out the Gorilla Tape, taper down, Roger.
The Gorilla Tape. Somebody told me about that Gorilla Tape, and I bought some of it, and it really has a very good application on certain things. Anyway, what you're talking about on the Gorilla Tape. Now, one last question for you. When I go on YouTube and I find my call sign on your website there, not your website, but your YouTube channel, when I find my call sign, am I going to be able to hear on the YouTube audio the change that I made by dialing things up the way you directed? Over.
Yes, sir. We've been recording since 11 o'clock. So everything we did has been recorded, so you'll be able to evaluate the whole sequence, Roger.
Evaluate the whole sequence, Roger.
Okay, very good. I'll look forward to that. So I'll probably start looking on YouTube over the weekend, and hopefully I can find this, and I'll look forward to playing it back. Over.
Roger, 3Z sir, and you have a really great weekend, and like I say, this will be up there within a couple of days, so and you just go to YouTube and do that, call it a search, and that takes you to our QSO-VLOG page. We have now about 820, 830 QSOs there, but you'll be looking for that one, hopefully on page 1, that has your call sign in the title, and it'll either be on page 1 or maybe page 2, but hopefully normally page 1. Roger.
Or maybe page 2, but hopefully normally page 1. Roger.
Very good. Well, I enjoyed talking with you this morning and making the changes on the radio as you directed. So now I'll be interested in going to YouTube and listening to the difference in the audio. So very good. Thank you very much for your comments. And you also have a great show. Catch up with you soon. 73 from KW2Q.
Roger. That's tough. Roger. Anyway, have a great weekend. We'll catch you later, and have a beautiful afternoon. This is KC9VKV, and we are doing the QSO-VLOG thing, and we're going to wrap up now. We've been on for about an hour. We were setting our lighting, so we have a little bit more moving around on the set than normally we would, but this is kind of a work-along situation, so and I think we've accomplished what we needed to. So 3 is all. We'll catch you later, and this is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Will be clear.
Catch you later, and this is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Will be clear.
His audio sounded beautiful. Whiskey 2 Zulu Mike Zulu.
Zulu Mike Zulu, thank you, sir.
Zulu Mike Zulu, thank you, sir.
Where are you, Zulu Mike Zulu?
Where are you, Zulu Mike Zulu?
I'm in Wayne, New Jersey, sir. Whiskey 2 Zulu Mike Zulu.
Roger. Well, gosh, we're still rolling record, so tell me about 10 or 15 seconds about your antenna system, sir.
Tell me about 10 or 15 seconds about your antenna system, sir.
Well, right now, off the farm, I'm running off the G5RV, and you've helped me 2 weeks ago with my audio. But I've since added to my audio. I only had the 8-band equalizer and audio equalizer and noise gate, but I've since added the EQ Plus by W2 India Hotel Yankee, and I wanted to get in here and play around with the settings a little bit because I'm not sure where I'm at with those. So if you'd like, since you got a little time left on your hands, maybe you could tell me whereabouts where I'm at with the audio. Over.
All right. What's the name there, sir?
All right. What's the name there, sir?
Name on this end is Kono, Charlie Oscar November Oscar Whiskey Zulu Mike Zulu.
Roger that, roger that. Well, are you running a Vox, or is that just your audio gate?
Well, are you running a Vox, or is that just your audio gate?
No Vox, it's just the audio, the noise gate with the delay and level set.
Roger. I would see no reason to run the noise gate because this is push to talk. It's not like you're keyed down for forever, and you have to dodge. I would like to hear your audio without the noise gate, frankly, if you can do that easily.
I'd like to hear your audio without the noise gate, frankly, if you can do that easily.
Okay, the noise gate is now shut off. Over.
Oh, much better, sir, much better, because the noise gate's shutting down before you key out, and it just sounds awkward. It just sounds like you're chopped before the word finishes. It's so much better without the noise gate, Roger.
Word finishes. It's so much better without the noise gate, Roger.
Roger. Yeah, I figured the noise gate would work out well for me because in the summertime or in the warm nights I put the air conditioner on and that background noise really comes in. So I thought the noise gate would be working well for me. Yeah, okay. Since you say it's working okay like that, that helps out a great deal. And on the EQ Plus, I played around with it a little as long as my limiter is set okay, and my ALC is stayed at about 33%, as you've advised. I see everything working well. Over.
Roger, you said your compressor is running at 3 out of 10, 30 out of 100?
3 out of 10, 30 out of 100.
That is a Roger. Over.
Okay, now take a look closely at your ALC. Or let me ask you this. You have an outboard audio processor, is that correct?
You have an outboard audio processor, is that correct?
Yes, the outboard audio processor on the radio is turned on. Over.
I'm sorry. The outboard processor on the radio. The radio processor, well, let me say this. You have an outboard piece of equipment, is that correct?
You have an outboard piece of equipment, is that correct?
Oh, yes, Roger. The EQ Plus goes along with the 8-band audio equalizer and noise gate, and that's the second piece of equipment that I've added to this equalizer. Over.
Roger. Now, I just heard a difficulty there about keying. It tried to upcut itself. You're sure you have that noise gate totally out of the circuit, Roger?
That noise gate totally out of the circuit, Roger.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I just heard your audio kind of get disturbed there and tried to key out, and I was just curious if you were sure you had that audio gate totally turned off.
Audio gate totally turned off.
Yes, the audio gate is completely turned off at this point, and if there's something else going on here, I'm going to need to know about it.
Roger. I just heard it that one time just recently. And your Vox, you never had used your Vox. Is that a Roger?
Vox, you never had used your Vox. Is that a Roger?
Roger. No issues with the Vox at all, sir. Over.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm just wondering now, we do have that external piece of gear that, it sounds like that your EQ is set correctly. I mean, it sounds nice and pretty bright. I'm curious if you go to your ALC and adjust your audio to where that is mid-scale to 2/3. Mid-scale to 2/3, and actually the sweet spot is halfway between the mid-scale and 2/3, but you'd better be running mid-scale to 2/3 to be able to pass through the sweet spot, Roger?
Through the sweet spot, Roger.
And you do that through your audio mic gain control.
Scale to 2/3, over.
Your mic gain control.
Sorry, we doubled, repeat.
sorry, we doubled, repeat.
Yeah, we might have keyed, that's about mid-scale to 2/3, right about there, over.
All right, that's sounding good. That's sounding good. And so tell me now about something, which radio are you running, sir?
Which radio are you running, sir?
Okay, this is the Yaesu FTDX1200, sir, over.
Roger. Now, and I would suggest that you go by your local music store and get you a foam windscreen. That will take out any of those mic transients that you might have. Just a foam windscreen would fit right over that mic and take out the last 1.5 to 2% of difficulties in the audio, Roger.
Difficulties in the audio, Roger.
Okay, Roger, I could do that. I've just noticed having a little SWR problem. That could be an issue. Yeah, wait, hold on 1 second.
Yes, sir. There's nothing worse than RF in the AF. RF in the AF plagues everybody that's running like a kilowatt or so. And the main thing is that when you design your studio or your Radio Shack, you want to have a flow process whereby, I just saw this guy that redesigned his Radio Shack, and he put his power amp right in the middle of his table, smack in the middle of it, with a bench shelf over the top of his radio. And I'm just wondering, would you take a kilowatt light and bury it in a recessed area? Just imagine the heat buildup. So what I suggest is that you move your power amp to the far right of your air table. So you have your main radio in the middle, your backup radio slightly right of center, and you move off to the right, and your power amp is far right. And I put mine on a pedestal. That's a 4-foot pedestal, nothing around the top of it, side of it, and because you want that power amp to breathe. You don't want to confine it. You don't want to sink it back in somewhere. You want that power amp to breathe, and the best way to do that is to put it up by itself. I put a little motor fan, exhaust fan on top, right above the finals, to additionally try to suck out that hotter air. And so, like I say, but it's to the right. And then you want your antennas cables to come in from the right. You don't want them to come right into the center of your Radio Shack where your radio is. You want them to come in from the right to the power amp, and not crisscross across your Radio Shack in the middle, Roger.
Your Radio Shack in the middle, Roger.
Oh, Roger there. I'm just noticing. Well, I do have them. I do have my power amp to the right, and I do, I'm getting a little fluctuation in the SWR. I'm going to have to go QRT, but I appreciate all your help and input. I'm going to try to make some adjustments according to your suggestions. Over.
Roger. And don't be afraid to have to run 2 grounds. I'm running 3 grounds. I'm running a ground and spider on my high wattage stuff by themselves. So my power amp, my antenna tuner, and my antenna selector are all on a separate ground, a spider ground, to one ground rod. And then I have 2 ground rods in addition to that, with 1 spider system for all the rest of the equipment. I just couldn't see taking a mic preamp and putting it on the same ground system as a kilowatt amp. Roger.
System as a kilowatt amp. Roger.
So, Kono, I'll say 3 to you, buddy. Have yourself a great afternoon, beautiful weekend coming up. This is KC9VKV.
Beautiful weekend coming up. This is KC9VKV.
73. I think I just fixed my problem, but okay, I'm going to take your suggestions. This is actually another antenna that I'm using. This is a 550 loop. So the same antenna I spoke with you last time on, and this seems to be working a little bit better. I might be having a little issues with moisture on the G5RV, but yes, I will take some of your suggestions and we'll work that out, and I'll get the SWR fixed on that. But as far as my audio goes, I believe I might be overdriving here, and I will try to get some the adjustments set. So I appreciate all your help. Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor from Whiskey 2, Zulu Mike Zulu.
Roger Kono, and you can check YouTube in the next couple of days and look for your call sign in the title. It'll be probably on page 1, maybe page 2, on a call letter search at YouTube of Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Roger.
Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. Roger.
Roger, Roger, sir. Take care, 73, and if I don't speak to you soon, happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Roger, Roger, 3s. KC9VKV will be clear now. We have finished our test, and we want to thank everybody that assisted us in doing that. And if they go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will take them to QSO-VLOG page, and they'll be looking for their call sign in the title of the QSO. This is a KC9VKV, and we'll be clear.